In this episode of the Table of Content, we have Asher Yautz and Micaela Kreuzwieser joining us for this session, where we will talk about some of WAOB Audio Theater's virtual productions that they have been working on. We hope that you can tune in to hear more about how it's been participating in a virtual production. That's all coming up next. Stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Table of Content. I am your host, Albert Saenz. This is the show where we talk about everything cool, hip, new, awesome happening with We Are One Body Audio Theater. And we are pleased to have joining us Asher Yautz and Micaela Kreuzwieser. Thanks so much for joining us, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Very welcome. Thank you for having us.
You're so welcome. It's nice to get kind of a double whammy, I guess, if you will. But we've been doing a lot of singles so far, but this is kind of the first one where we have more than one person joining us, but hopefully we'll kind of spread out and branch out. I want to tell everyone kind of a disclaimer. We're sort of in the midst of still this ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. So we're recording remotely in everyone's respective locations. So we kind of give an open ticket for any extra sounds that you may hear, whether it's phones like my own that went off, or pets, cats meowing, dogs barking, children crying, doors slamming. So we continue through this as best we can. But let's get into it. We're going to go ladies first. Micaela, tell me a little bit about your background and how you ended up here.
Well, I'm from Canfield, Ohio. After I graduated from Ursuline High School in 2015, I took a gap year to work and do some acting at local community theaters. And then I started college at St. Vincent College in Latrobe, PA. I went there for 4 years. My freshman year, I submitted a poem and a short story to our on-campus literary magazine called Generation. And then this past fall, I was contacted by We Are One Body Audio Theater, and they wanted to produce it as an audio recording. And I signed the rights for that. I was okay with that. And then a couple weeks ago, I played the role of Jane Stockton in We Are One Body Audio Theater's audio play adaptation of G.K. Chesterton's Father Brown in the Eye of Apollo.
That was a great synopsis. I think that's been one of the shortest synopsises of my life from then to now that I've heard so far in all the episodes. So, quick question, Micaela, before I toss it over to Asher. Writing, is that a passion, a desire, just a thing you do on the side?
Oh, it's definitely a passion of mine. It was my major at St. Vincent. I had a concentration in creative writing. And after another gap year, I am going to attempt graduate school with a focus in playwriting and screenwriting. So I definitely say it's a main passion of mine.
Wow. And your goal would be what?
I would like to become a screenwriter.
Very, very nice. A movie person, huh?
Definitely. I love movies very much so.
Good. Someone after my own loves and passions. Asher, what do you got? What's your background and how'd you end up where you are right now with audio theater?
I have to follow that up, so let's see how it goes. Starting out when I was about 15, I started to really get into Japanese animation of anime and started to actually do cosplay and go to anime conventions. And then it turns out I realized that people behind the voices were acting. I'm like, wait, I can do this as a job? So I kicked it into high gear and decided to move to Vancouver, British Columbia, to where I studied at Vancouver Film School, where I have a degree in acting for TV and film. Along with that, I dabbled in a little bit of voiceovers. I moved back to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I am right now. And I was on a few forums and a few casting websites where I saw We Are One Body Audio Theater casting for a fantasy short series, where I give them an email. They contact me back. I went in, planning to audition for 3 characters. I actually stayed for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, where they gave me about another 6 or so characters to audition for. And since then, I've worked on their adaptation of Sherlock Holmes and Alice in Wonderland as the White Rabbit, the Caterpillar, and the Grand Duke. And I've worked with them a few other things, and it's been fantastic working with them. I absolutely love it.
Super. Okay, so Asher, I'm really interested, obviously, in the audio theater portion, but I heard you say something that caught my attention. I followed in a younger life, in a different life, I followed anime in a very strong way. So I've got to find out, what's your favorite anime movie or series?
Oh, no, that's a difficult
No, come on.
There's so many.
You got to give me one. Give me one.
Okay. I will say the main one that I associate with would be Full Metal Panic, because I'm pretty much the main character in it, except I can socialize better.
Okay. So let's jump into the audio theater section. Asher, you've got two under your belt. You've got Alice in Wonderland, which I saw most of, and you were the caterpillar and the March Hare, or the Mad Hatter? I forget what the second character was.
I was the White Rabbit.
You were the White Rabbit. Okay.
Yes.
The White Rabbit and the caterpillar. And I couldn't help but feel like the caterpillar, you reached right into Disney's movie vault and pulled the voice kind of right out.
Yeah, I took some inspiration with that. The voice I actually auditioned for it was a voice they wanted me to use for something else. They're like, this was the voice I used for Cheshire Cat, actually, when I auditioned. And they're like, I really want that just annoyance, just the deep resonance from kind of like the Disney evil character. So I'm like, okay, I can do that.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I think it was great. It was definitely a great voice that you used. I could see how it could transition into something a bit more evil and sinister. And then I was told for Sherlock, because I didn't get to watch that one, I was told that you had to learn German. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah. They wanted it to be a German accent because he's the Grand Duke and he is German. And German's a very difficult accent for me to do, especially with the R's. So I dug deep into that and actually started to learn German. Started to figure out a few words, try to learn where the mouth moves, the consonants that they use. And I'm not sure how well I hit it, but it was definitely such an enjoyment to learn and to actually stress test my accent level.
Micaela, have you spoken German before?
I have not taken German, no. My dad's technically adopted into a family that's German. I don't know how much that counts. Probably not.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but no, I am not fluent in German. I never took it as a language course. They didn't offer it at my high school. It was just French and Spanish and Italian. So
it's okay. It's good. You can work on your Italian accent. Wait for the next virtual production that needs a good Italian.
I actually took French in high school.
Or French. Your choice.
This is great.
Now, Micaela. Oh, go ahead, Asher.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm actually better at my Japanese than I am in German.
Oh, nice. Do you speak any Chinese, like Cantonese?
I can't do any Chinese or Cantonese. I can only do some basic conversational Japanese, like would be konnichiwa, genki desu ka? Watashi no namae wa Asher desu. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I don't speak a lot of Cantonese. I do basic phrases. I understand a lot more. My mom is actually from Hong Kong, so I understand a lot more than I speak.
Super. Now, Micaela, you have done the Father Brown mystery, Eye of Apollo, and I was informed that your sort of big necessity was that you had to be sad the whole time.
Yes. My character, she's mainly reacting to everything that's going on, the death of her sister in the story. And then the latter half, when Father Brown is figuring out the mystery and everything that's going on, she's on camera the entire time.
Yeah.
So obviously you can't have her just be like, oh yeah, I'm a casual bystander, because her sister was just killed. So I had to remain on camera, but I also had to stay in character, reacting realistically how a person would after being told that, their loved one just died tragically. So I spent a lot of my camera time in shock and reacting very emotionally to what was going on, to the point that Gretelyn Darkey, the director, after a couple of the rehearsals, when we were just talking normally, she said at one point, it's amazing to see Micaela smiling because we see her so sad the entire rehearsal.
Yeah.
So
I think sadness is one of those emotions. Like it can be hard to maintain sadness when you want to be the opposite, like your interior, your personality, your own emotions are inclined to want to be happy, to be joyful, to express enthusiasm. But then someone says, take all that away and be sad, be in the pit of despair, and maintain that consistently while on camera for 20 to 30 some odd minutes. That's just got to be hard.
It is a bit tricky because the thing about grief is it's all consuming. You feel like your world's falling apart. You feel like all joy has been sucked away from you, and you don't feel in control about any of it. You feel very much like you're you're being controlled by it. Like you can't do anything with it. And it's a little hard, yes, but I basically figured, how would I react if I was told that someone close to me was killed? Well, I would be in shock. I wouldn't know what to do. I'd start to doubt my surroundings. And that's really what happens when you're sad like that, because you don't feel like you can trust anything. You're just in shock perpetually for a while.
I have been through that scenario in my head with my family. You know, I have a wife and 3 small children, and I love them very dearly, and I worry about their well-being. And I have played out in my head, you know, the aftermath of something tragic happening, and it's never good. I want it to be positive, and I think we should strive to try and not be consumed by grief. But like you said, it can be so strong and so powerful, and it'd be great if we could just sort of escape it. Be like, all right, here's the light, here's the path out. But it is tricky and it is hard. But obviously you maintained your consuming grief. And the good thing is that there's not a real reason right now to have grief in your life, God willing.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So much more to be happy about, especially as things get back to normal in the world.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Now, Asher, I'm going to kick back to you again. You seem to have a particular knack for voices. Can you really expand upon that a little bit more?
Definitely. Absolutely. Voices has been something I've always enjoyed doing. When I was in college, my voiceover coach explained, if you're going to do, if you're going to mimic somebody, you have to be perfect. You have to be perfect at doing those impressions. And I didn't want to kind of go for that. I wanted to be more of a character actor. And I do a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, playing with friends, and I do voices for that. As you can tell, I'm very much a nerd. And doing anything from just like the deep caterpillar voice to, I don't know, something a little bit more of a goblin is just exhilarating for me. It allows me to be things I can't be on camera that I can do with a microphone because you can't actually physically see me.
Right. Micaela, as a potential future screenwriter,
Yes.
what is your opinion on the importance of a good voice actor?
Oh, I think a good voice actor is essential to making a story resonate with the audience, because if a voice is flat or it's unemotional, it just doesn't carry through like it should. And I'm back onto the subject of anime. I think it's funny you were talking about anime, but I've recently become quite obsessed with the anime Full Metal Alchemist. And it's considered one of the best English dubs. And I admire all the voice actors because they so embody the characters' personalities and their motivations and their emotions. And every time I watch it, I just think, gosh, they casted these characters perfectly. And so to answer your question in a very long roundabout way, I'd say it's essential that a good voice actor is picked for the characters in a story, because that's how you feel like the story's actually happening.
I completely agree with you. And I think what has been super has been that the audio theater has been working real hard on these virtual productions, and even they're not their virtual productions. Like there are other ones from for a couple of years now. They really invested in, when they need the right voice, they take the time to cast, to do rehearsals, to make sure that the person is going to accurately portray the character. And I think that they did a good job in the virtual productions. Like, I'm not, I think Asher did a good job. I think you did a good job with your role. It was because you had to pull out a sort of a British accent there, right?
I did, yes. Yeah. Everyone in the production had to facilitate a British accent.
And they were pretty clear on that, because other times I can tell you, because I've been involved with audio theater since just about the beginning, and there's been times when they've pretty much said, just skip the accent, don't try it, because if you can't do it well, then it's not worth doing it, because it's going to come through. And I think we see that in movies a lot of times. People try to do accents, vice versa, and we see poor jobs of it, but it was the best they could do.
Yes. It's even worse when they have to do an emotionally resonant moment, and because they're trying to pull off an accent that they're not used to at the same time, it really detracts from the emotion, and it makes it almost silly. And that's why when one of the community theater plays I was in during my gap year between high school and college, we did an Agatha Christie mystery, and our director there told us, don't do the accent, because what I've noticed is people who aren't used to the accent, haven't been trained in it, they try to act through the accent, and it detracts from their acting.
Right. Well, we're reaching the end here, so I want to give a chance for each of you to kind of give some kind of closing thoughts on your hopes for your future involvement with audio theater. So we'll offer again to Micaela to kind of kick it off there. What are you, in spite of you want to go off, you want to do screenwriting, but right now, audio theater, what are you hoping to sort of get involved in? What would you hope maybe that they're going to do as something they haven't done yet?
Well, I like how they're doing the older stories. I like how they're doing adaptations of things like Alice in Wonderland and the Sherlock Holmes stories and G.K. Chesterton and George MacDonald. And I hope that they keep doing that. I would hope to keep auditioning for future weekly audio plays. I don't know what the requirements are on directing a production, but I want to see if there are any opportunities there.
Oh, sure.
I love, even though I do want to go into writing, I would like to be versatile in the theater world. I would like to broaden my horizons, gain experience. I would like to improve my voice acting abilities. Like, one of the things that impresses me about voice actors is how they can sound so different with one voice, but so convincing in the roles of these different characters, like these different anime English voice dub actors. They can sound so different, but they embody these different characters so well. That's really a very amazing talent.
I agree with you. And I think Asher would probably agree with you, the importance of the voice over talent, being able to accurately portray the character, their emotions, who they are, what they represent, so that those who are watching or listening say, yeah, that is who I'm watching. That is who I believe them to be. Asher, off to you. So hopes for the future of audio theater and maybe what you might like to try and get involved in.
Hopes for the future, working with them in general. It's exciting on any project they do, and I'm happy to work with almost anything. But if I had to pick a particular, I am very much into the fantasy genre. I like doing the creature voices, creatures that aren't real of this world. I like to kind of break that barrier to create something that's not real in fantasy. But then you hear it, you're like, wait, is that actually real? I'm hearing that voice. I'm kind of afraid of it in a way. I've always been told I look like that bad guy. So, play those type of characters I love when it comes to fantasy. Things I kind of want to branch out in. I'm going to sound like I'm copying Micaela a little bit, but I've dabbled a little bit of writing, and I've wanted to direct some things in the future as well. Again, I don't know the criteria, but I try to focus on my craft, but also put out my arms and hands and see what else is there in the world for me to pursue.
I would say I'm so thankful to know that there are creative-minded people like yourself that are out there in the world who not only are working on their own craft, but want to expand their own horizons for the sake of sort of making yourself more versatile and just making you overall a better content provider. I think when you expand your skill set, even if it's not the thing you're mostly interested in, I think it makes you a better performer. And I think that will continue to show in both of you, wherever your paths go, voice acting, screenwriting, directing, wherever that path leads. So I'm very excited for the both of you, wherever you are led in your own journey in life. I'm hopeful to see what great things the two of you will come up with. Thank you both so much for taking some time to talk with me about your involvement in the virtual productions for WAB Audio Theater. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Albert.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us here.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested at all in hearing Alice in Wonderland, the Sherlock Holmes story, or the Father Brown, Eye of the Apollo story, you could go to We're One Body Audio Theater's Facebook page, or you can go to their YouTube channel, We Are One Body Audio Theater, and you can look up the performances of these wonderful virtual productions, as well as other virtual productions that we have done. And as always, visit our website, waobaudiotheater.org, for all the goods on all of this material and more. Thanks so much for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you and hearing you, or you hearing us, on the table of content. Thanks so much. Peace.